Hello, I'm Colette Metz, and I found an article on an experimental study of the fear of public speaking through virtual reality. It is by Mel Slater, David Paul Prideaux, Chris Barker, and David M. Clark. This article was about the treatment of social phobias using virtual reality. They used the fear of public speaking in this particular experiment that they did. The background behind this experiment would be to help people with mental illnesses and social phobias that could ease them into social situations and being observed by a psychiatrist or psychologist. The methods they used in recruitment were they went to local papers and the local university campus and recruited that way, and once they've got people calling in to do the study, they had them complete a standard questionnaire with 30 yes or no questions. They counted the number of answers indicating anxiety when they had to do public speaking. The score in the bottom thirds, the score with the bottom third, they were considered the confident group, and the top third was considered the phobic group. Everyone in between they've just removed from the experiment. Plus they removed anybody with psychotic tendencies. They recruited total 41 people, and one extra just to allow for someone who dropped out or who wasn't able to do it anymore. And the scenarios they used two different types of scenarios. One was a seminar room with it was empty, just table and chairs, no people in it. The second scenario they used was the same room, but they put avatars in it, which are virtual reality people, basically. Two women, two men that were casually dressed, and they did an array of responses. Like some were, playing with their hair, grooming themselves to show that they were not interested, and then there were some that were taking notes and very looking right at the person and when they're doing a speech. The procedures before the experiment were they were prearranged appointments and provided information. They provided an information sheet and had to sign a consent form before the experiment could take place. They were polar chest strap that monitors heart rate was attached to them. They had 5 minutes to prepare for the speech before they went out. During the experiment, they had the head-mounted display so they could see the room, either with or without the people. Their heart rate was monitored, and the content of the report was recorded. In a remote location, there was a person, an experimenter, there unseen, watching and listening to the speech. After the experiment, they completed a questionnaire and a debriefing session, and they were told what the purpose of this experiment was for, and they were not to discuss this experiment with anybody within 30 days. And they were given $9. That was their pay for it. The equipment they used for the scenarios was the DIV software. Avatars were from Park and Waters, which included the face, muscle, model, clothing, textures, all of that to make the people look real. System was Silicon Graphics Onyx and they used infinite reality graphics and 192 megabytes of main memory. The head tracking system was a Polyhemus Fast Track. Helmet was Virtual Research VR8. The removal of outliners in this experiment, they had originally 20 people for each group, the phobics and the confidents. They randomly put one into two of the conditions, so they didn't have set conditions for set groups, they just put them in randomly. The scores for the phobic group, the people with the highest scores in the phobics were in the audience group, and people with the lowest scores in the phobics were in the empty group. And just to reassure that they got the right scores, they repeated this test twice. The mean for the empty room was about 23.6. The mean for the audience room was about 25.7 on the anxiety scale that they created. Post talks this is the results of what they had in the post talks. They removed and changed some questions, so they were left with total 15 questions to rate their scale of anxiety that they had during the speech. The empty room with the phobics was 6.5, and the audience room with the phobics was 10.38. The confidence in the empty room was 2.4, and the confidence in the audience room was 2.7. So that shows that the phobics were more relaxed in the empty room, but had more anxiety in the audience room, and there was really no difference between the confidence group, which would be expected because they would be able to speak confidently in an empty room or a populated room. Somatization, the people with the social phobia had self-focused attention. They were worried about their looks, the way they talked, the way they looked, the way people perceived them, that they were being judged. The higher the score, the greater the degree of somatization. In an empty room with the phobics, they had 88.9. In an audience room with the phobics, they had 158.8. So they were a little bit higher in the audience room. And for the confidence in the empty room was 42.2, and it was the same for the audience room. The heart rate was also tested 5 minutes during the test and then 5 minutes after the test. In conclusion, the confidence had no difference between the empty room and the audience room, and they tested 3 ways of anxiety. They used the questionnaire-based anxiety. There was more anxiety in the audience room than in the empty. The subjective assignment of the somatic response was doubled, and when they spoke in an empty room, their heart rate decreased as they went on with the speech. Heart rates differ for phobics with the audience, though. There was a different range of heart rates for those. For control, no difference in heart rate during resting. Unusual environments had been done in previous studies where people were yelling and screaming or something like that. But in this one, they used a usual environment because that was the best way to test if they were scared, if they had a fear of speaking in public, because normally you wouldn't have people yelling and screaming obscene things. That's only in rare occasions. Behaviors of the avatars were based on usual behaviors of people in meetings, and they did get a question. They have a question at the end of this experiment that they need answered, but they weren't able to answer. And I'm going to quote you straight from the article. And it says, how much lower could the representational and behavioral fidelity become while maintaining the same results? And conversely, how much would be gained investing resources in order to significantly improve such fidelity? And they are working on doing some more experiments to answer that question, hopefully. Thank you, and you have a great day.